Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman Thomas J. Yaz Yaskowitz stood in the dim and narrow alley pulling security, once again standing alone. Also, he realized with a shiver of disgust, standing in a pile of human feces. He just shook his head at this, as if the end of the world wasn't bad enough, never mind all the other trials he'd been through these last couple of months. Apocalypse or no apocalypse, whether patrolling, running, or gunfighting. Whatever advanced medical and clinical training you had, however badass a pipe-hitting operator you were, getting shit on your shoe still just kind of fucked up your day. A light breeze tickled the stubble on Yaz's jaw and stirred the post-apocalyptic debris littering the desolate and dingy alley. The smell of mold, must, and neglect wafted up at him, reminding him of the basement in his childhood home. But the air was at least a comfortable temperature, and a low blanket of cirrus clouds kept the sun off, though the high walls to either side were mostly doing that already. Yaz was sweating lightly anyway, a combination of his 60 pounds of combat load, the tension and stress of another shore mission, and also them having gone into another of Earth's tropical regions, even in wintertime. It was Valentine's Day, in fact, well into the new year. Not that anyone really gave a shit. This new year was so far shaping up to be even more of a forlorn hellscape than the one just ended. The year when everything had ended. No, things were clearly going to get worse before they got better, and there was little sign they were ever going to get any better. Yaz looked down to check out the insult to his Salomon Speed assault boot. At least there was no one there to see this and give him crap about it. As always, people, even your teammates and brothers in arms, were a mixed blessing. Being on your own had some advantages. You just couldn't survive long-term that way, as Yaz had come to understand even back in the world before this one. And you definitely couldn't make it on your own in the Zulu Alpha. Keeping his Beretta ARX-200 battle rifle at the low-ready position, keeping his head on a swivel and covering his sector, he sidestepped over to a dumpster at the edge of the alley and tried to scrape off the foul porridge-like substance. But as he smeared it around, it started to smell even more like whoever had taken a crap back here had been living on overripe mangoes and cat food since the fall, which was probably true. Not that there were too many of those left. Survivors. At the moment, as Yaz was painfully aware, he and his team were surrounded on all sides, everyone but the ocean to their west, by 35 million former residents of India's Kerala province, most of them packed into dense and unbroken slums that tumbled and sprawled to the horizon. Out beyond the fence line to Yaz's left was an undead urban hellscape of unimaginable proportions. You lose it here, he thought, not too cool to borrow a line. You're in a world of hurt. But thank God they didn't have to venture out there. All they had to do was hold this one enclosed and defensible target site, and only for as long as it took to clean it out. Their objective here was the closest thing the world's former most populous democracy had to a warehouse superstore, something called a Lulu hypermarket. Sam's Club it was not, but it was on roughly the same scale, and it was accessible from the coast, which was crucial. India probably wouldn't have been Yaz's first choice, as it had seemed to him way too post-apocalyptic even before the apocalypse. He hoped he wasn't being totally racist about it. It was just that massive, dense crowds scared the hell out of him. There was too little privacy, too much disease, and heaving masses of people were always scary, even back when they were alive. These days there were better reasons to be afraid of dense crowds, or any place the living had congregated, because the dead ruled there now. And it would only take one bite, one scratch, one splash from any of those millions to end Yaz's story for good. Or rather, it would begin the twilight permanent purgatory part of his story, and it would be the end of him being useful to his team, doing his job of keeping his Special Operations Marines alive and healthy, patching them up when they got hurt, and throwing them back into the fight. You're no good to anyone dead, as his team chief liked to say. And you're a positive menace when you're undead. So now Yaz just worked to stay frosty, squinting over the top of his ruggedized Trigicon mini-reflex sight, fighting his lonely battle with dimness, quiet, and solitude, which were all working together to make him drowsy. Actually, it was seriously starting to feel like nap time here. Were they done yet?